Good morning. My name is James Naughton. I am a mental health counselor with the University of Arizona as an employee assistance counselor at Life and Work Connections. And this is our Pause and Pivot Thursdays, part of our 15 for You, 15 minutes where we can practice learning how to connect to our bodies, to feel present and able to meet challenges in the day that we can meet versus become overwhelmed or washed over by them. And hopefully in these practices, helping you feel more active and capable in your daily lives. My background includes about 21 years actually, in the mental health field, primarily in inpatient hospitalization. And my main focus being on helping individuals with trauma or undischarged traumatic stress, anxiety, whatever form that might take, and helping people experience their emotions, connect to them, and not becoming the emotion and letting the emotions decide, but help us to be more connected to the moment and feeling more capable to meet those challenges. And we're meeting many of those challenges today in these remote meetings at this time, and I'm hoping that you can begin these practices now, and the more we develop them and practice them, the more we find ourselves meeting any challenge, not necessarily a crisis, but any challenge with less anxiety or worry, but perhaps more confidence and more sense of choice and capability. So for the heading this morning, we've got the image of the press the reset button, which I think there are some days where I'm looking at that wondering if I could press that button. And while there isn't that button per se, there is a way to connect to that internal reset by practicing some of these exercises, which were developed by Peter Levine, who is a psychologist, developed a technique called somatic experiencing, and also other work based on that were body-mind approaches to dealing with stress and helping people feel more connected to their bodies, especially if they've experienced some form of earlier trauma. So we're going to employ those techniques today. And so the first thing we want to recognize right now, perhaps, is, let's see if I can get this going here, is how do we know we need to slow down? How do we recognize that our body is trying to say, hey, I need some time? And for years, we may have learned how to ignore that by pushing on, pushing forward, and we may not realize it, but the more we push forward mentally, pushing our bodies past certain points, that we may be pushing ourselves into a state of freeze or immobility where we just feel like we can't. Or physically, we get into this state where we're constantly agitated or in that state of worry or irritability, and we call that fight or flight. And those systems, which are part of our brainstem and our basic functioning, they respond to any stress that happens, and they don't really determine the difference whether it's an actual threat or not. They just respond. But if we can meet those responses in an embodied way, we may find that slowing down is exactly what we need to do to be able to focus in the now and to meet whatever challenge going forward. So in doing so, let me go back up a bit. We want to look at this system just briefly. And what I was talking about was where we normally hang out, in that area at the bottom where it says social engagement. And like a slinky, that system is turning on and turning off. It's just like our heartbeat, contracting and expanding, or our chest rising and falling with our breath. And that social engagement phase is where we're able to be grounded and present. That's our normal state. That's where we're supposed to be about 90% of the time. But if we're used to pushing our system, we're pushing it into that sympathetic range. And that's where we move into those states of dealing with an actual threat. And if we don't address that arousal increases and it gets higher and higher. And at some point it exceeds that system's capacity to respond, and we go into that collapse. And that's that freeze at the top. Now, we can try to operate at that level, but it's very difficult to do that. Or we might be right at that edge And we usually can see that when we can't sleep or just do basic things because our system is saying, hey, I'm in danger. And that's because that system has been pushed and pushed and pushed into that. And where we want to be, if we can, is to move out of that state naturally and move into a place where we feel safe, our emotions are present, we're able to empathize with others. You know, we're not having problems concentrating or being kind of guarded and wondering what people's motives are and being distrustful. It also supports a healthier immune response when we're actually taking the time to meet our bodies where they're at. And we also sleep better too. So recognizing when we're not in that state and then responding to it gently is really the best approach we can have in coming back to this moment versus getting busier, which is maybe what we've been socialized to do. And we're going to do this in two ways this morning. The first is called the basic exercise, where we're going to involve these cranial nerves that kind of exit at the back of in the bottom of our skull. And they involve regulating the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the brake that slows things down in the body. And so we're going to do this now. And what I'm going to ask everybody to do, just make sure that you have both feet on the ground and just looking straight ahead. And what I first want you to do with this basic exercise is I want you to just check your range of motion with your neck and head. So together, let's just slowly, just kind of turn our head slowly to the right. And as you're turning your head slowly to the right, I just want you to be aware if there's any resistance. And if there's any tightness, I don't want you to push past the tightness. I just want you to meet it where it is and notice where that range is, and then come back to the center in the midline, look straight ahead. And then we're going to go to the left. And again, all we're doing is noticing and observing and collecting information here. If we're noticing some resistance or tightness, you know, that's just something to be aware of right now, that maybe our shoulders are bracing and holding, which is some of that fight flight in the system. So we're going to look straight ahead now. And now that we've collected some data about that range of motion, we're now going to take our hands like this. And we're just going to put them behind our head and just right back at the base. And just maybe let your head kind of rest in that grip right there. And keeping your elbows out. And now what we're going to do, I'm going to ask you to not move your head at all, but I'm going to ask you to just let your eyes go all the way to the right. Both eyes look as far as you can to the right. And let's hold that gaze. See if you can spot your elbow, your right elbow, and the edge of your glasses, or if you have them. So let's notice that for about 20 seconds together and just observe whatever happens. Great. Now let's come back to center. Just look straight ahead. Just take a breath or two. And then we're going to do the same thing, not turning our head, but looking all the way to the left, keeping our hands supporting the back of our head, and just looking as far as we can to the left. See if you can see the tip of your left elbow there, and just holding your gaze there for another 20 seconds. And let's just notice what happens. Great, and then let's bring our eyes back to the center, and we can kind of let our hands come down. And if you want, just kind of just putting your hand on your heart and just taking a couple of breaths. Now what I'd like you to do, or invite you to do, is just check that range of motion slowly and just seeing if it's the same or if it's different in some way. Let's just do that now. Not too fast, but just letting your body catch up and integrate all of this. And then to the other side. And perhaps we may have noticed a change, whether that tightness was less or our range of motion was more. And that's an indication of that break, that system in our brain that's allowing those muscles and all the viscera that connects our tissues to kind of relax. Our whole body is moving into that more social engaged state. Some of us may have noticed a drop in our stomach or a cooling feeling or a soothing kind of movement out our body. Again, that's that parasympathetic system where the body's saying, I can be safe and relax. The other one we're going to try right now is called Voo and Tap. And so I want you to put your hand on your chest. This is another exercise you can do. And maybe, as I'm talking, I can feel my voice in my chest vibrating. And so we're going to make a sound so that we can feel it in our chest. It's like an internal foghorn. And it kind of sounds like this. Just like that. So we're going to do that 3 times. And afterwards, tap our sternum, that hard bone in the center of our chest. Okay, with me. Let's take a deep breath in. And make the voo sound with your mouth. Voo. Just take a deep breath and release and breathe normally. Maybe just look around a little bit with your eyes, just seeing where everything is and making a note of the different things you see around you. And then coming back, we'll take a deep breath again. Ready? Voo. Breathe normally, keeping your hand on your chest, maybe again looking around. And the looking around just indicates to our brain that everything's okay. Our body changes by experiencing. You can't be told what to do. It can only experience change. So that's what you're helping your body do by this exercise and noticing. So we're going to do this one more time. Ready? Take a deep breath in. And then form the voo with your mouth and out. Voo. And then just take a breath and breathe normally. And now we're just going to tap using our fist right on the center of our chest. Not too hard, but just so that you can feel it. And the tapping and the vooing, what they're activating are this cranial nerve, the 10th cranial nerve in our neck and chest that again signals to the body to deactivate, to calm down. And this is especially helpful, the tapping, when we feel like we're dissociating, we're feeling kind of floaty. Sometimes when we get nervous, we kind of feel that way. So if we even just tap our chest and look around, it's going to bring us right back into our bodies again. So this is a very useful break in and of itself too, when we need it. Just even the tapping and the orienting and everything. Okay, you can do this for 2 or 3 minutes even, as long as you want to do this and looking around and just noticing your breath. Okay? Great. So those were some exercises to help us put on the brakes, to activate our natural body's way of calming us down, but also bringing us back into our bodies where we're really at home and where we can really feel our feelings and not be run by them. It really helps us be more capable of making decisions and being able to handle difficult situations in the day. So I hope you practice this on a regular basis. It just takes a little bit of time, and you'll notice that that resiliency will continue to build and your body will be more responsive to the process. I want to thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great day and a great weekend. And next week, next Thursday, we'll be working on putting on the accelerator, or helping our body move out of states of anger and fear and going into movement. So looking forward to that. Have a great rest of your day, and take care. Bye now.